In the year 2020, I started a podcast about movies. Some episodes occasionally focused on other media as well. As I dealt with threatening interdimensional beings, I eventually met my other self from another universe where all the stuff I talked about got delayed. As it turns out, the stories as me and my guests described them were presented very differently in that other universe. So I continued podcasting these recaps, which apparently sound like improvised reviews, to entertain listeners of that other universe while they waited for the new release dates. Some episodes even focused on content of years past that did not come out in that other universe for whatever reason. The year is 2022. The podcast is now bi-weekly, unless stated otherwise. My name is Shinder, and you're listening to Delayed Replay. Hello, listeners. Welcome to another episode of Delayed Replay, that podcast where usually we recap and review movies that got delayed in that other universe but came out on time in our universe. But this time around, we're doing another episode where we talk about a movie that never came out in that other universe, but came out in ours. And, sometimes people forget about it because of the whole, neuralizer thing in the movie. But, yeah, we're talking about Men in Black 4, continuing the trend or thread or whatever you want to call it of Men in Black movies we talk about every now and then. I'm your host, as always, Steven Shinder, and joining me once again, you may have heard him on some other episodes, it is Jesse Bennett from Question Possible Answer. How's it going?
Hey, Steven, great to be back. Doing pretty good.
Nice, that's great to hear. And yeah, for us, Men in Black 4 came out in 2015, so 3 years after Men in Black 3 came out, and of course we had those prequels, Frank the Pug and Men in Black Declassified, and also that weird 90s movie that's not really connected is kind of weird. But yeah, so Men in Black 4, this one was written by Oren Uziel, who around this time that he was writing this was also doing rewrites on 22 Jump Street. So yeah, it's kind of interesting the route that he went. But yeah, he's also done, I'm just looking at his credits real quick. He's got a story by credit for the recent Mortal Kombat. He worked on Cloverfield Paradox, which personally I think that movie was terrible. But yeah, I guess we can start by saying, after Men in Black 3, did you think we needed another sequel with Agent J and Agent K? What was your take on that, Jesse?
So, I've always loved the Men in Black movies, so to hear that there was going to be another one, as usual, I was a little bit reserved going into it because, too much of a good thing can be a bad thing. Don't know exactly, if it seemed like the best story or anything, but overall, I was still anxious for it and ready to watch it.
Yeah, because I think this was announced at a time where for some movies they would say, oh, they're developing another one. I would think, oh, cool, yeah, I like these characters. But I think years later I'm a bit more critical about certain things, and whenever there are certain sequel announcements, I'm a bit more cautious because maybe that comes with experience. And I'm not like a teenager who just loves mostly anything anymore, I guess. But yeah, Men in Black 3 I think was my favorite of the main trilogy with Tommy Lee Jones and Will Smith. But what was your favorite of that trilogy?
Ooh, probably the second one. I don't know if it's just because, the age I was when it came out, so it has that pull on me as being a really good sequel, and from a time frame whenever sequels weren't that good. But yeah, I think the second one probably is the winner for me.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, because I feel like usually people say that the second one was kind of downhill and then the third one brought things back up. But when I rewatched the movies, one and two felt like they were on the same level, more or less, to me. Like they both felt fine, and I don't know if it's just me, but somehow the ending to both of them feel a bit rushed. Whereas the third one I thought was I liked it more. I thought it was good. Maybe I just loved the time travel and just how much better everything looked visually, with the cinematography and just technology having advanced, and just like really impressed with the like Josh Brolin and Will Smith interactions. And it's like I just forget that it's a different actor playing Agent K, which is pretty amazing.
Yeah, I liked him as Agent K, but it's hard to, for me at least, it's hard to choose him whenever you've got Tommy Lee doing the role as well. And I mean, the original.
Yeah, that's fair. And in Men in Black 4, like Tommy Lee Jones has more screen time than he did in the third one. Because, it's more focused on like what are they doing now type of thing. And we get agents J and K sitting at a diner eating pie and whatnot, and they're having kind of like just a casual discussion, and Agent K is like, I'm 75 now. You think it's time for me to retire? And Agent J is like, it's kind of weird that we didn't have you stay retired a long time ago. And like, yeah, like, what did you think of this discussion, Jesse?
Oh, so it starts off in the pie shop, which has been a staple to Men in Black at least since the second one. I don't remember if they did any pie in the first one. So just getting to open up in that pie shop again, just like how the third one ended, really, also. And then it was basically a catch-all scene for the series up to that point because they discussed, oh well, I already tried to retire, we pulled you out. For whatever reason, I decided not to retire again immediately after that, and I thought it was a great back and forth, especially for any new viewers to the series that might not have gotten to watch everything prior.
Yeah, that's a good point. It did feel like a bit of a recap because, even though there's a 4 in the title, this could very well be someone's intro to the films. Like, I mean, I don't know how many people still watch cable, but maybe someone will like catch this like on cable or whatever and be like, hey, what's this? And be like, oh, this is interesting. I want to watch the other ones now, type of thing. Thinking back, it was kind of weird that the first movie ends with him retiring, and then the second one they pull him out. Like it feels really weird, just that whole reversal. And it's like I kind of wonder if they had the hindsight that there would be more movies. I wonder if they would have just not ended the first one with him retiring. But I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, I don't think it feels like they had plans for sequels, but they didn't know. At least in my eyes, it seems like they didn't know how popular the Agent K character was going to be, and they were probably hoping, the sequels would be about Agent J and his partners and stuff. And then they're like, oh, well, for this story, we really need to bring back the retired guy. How do we do that? How do we do that?
Yeah, I did like how in the second one, Patrick Warburton played his partner for a bit. And lo and behold, here in Men in Black 4, we see him again, like actually in this pie shop. And he's like with his wife, and they have a few kids. And it's kind of a fulfillment of that really weird, kind of creepy neuralizer suggestion that he gave him, saying you're gonna have lots of kids and hey, this guy thinks you're hot type of thing. But what'd you think of that payoff and their interaction here?
Well, I thought it was really great to see them again, because the last time we see Patrick is in that same pie shop. We do see his wife and the kids and everything, the apartment that he goes to. And he's like, oh, I have to pick some stuff up or something like that. One of those apartments during all the time travel thing, whenever it's a modified timeline or something like that. the apartment that he goes to is her with the kids, and the husband's just gone. So to see them in this one and tie it all together was pretty nice because it's the same actress.
Patrick Warburton is a really funny actor. He was Kronk in Emperor's New Groove. He was in Seinfeld, but also surprisingly dramatic in Lemony Snicket's A Series of Unfortunate Events. And so it was nice to get a bit more screen time from him here and just, continuing that thread. After this interaction, this sort of catch up thing, because, they can't tell him like everything or whatever, but it's like they kind of feel the need to like say hi to him as they're like heading out. And as they're like walking the street, agents K and J are like sort of asking each other like, did you ever think about like wanting a family or something? And like, what did you think of Agent J's answer to this?
It was almost like another little callback to the first movie, whenever they're on the bench, and except it's Jay asking, hey, is it worth it? And it's like that was like the extent of the questioning from that one, and so it is kind of weird seeing it was 25 years, give or take, before they're finally having that discussion to the fullest of, did you ever want a wife, kids, family, house, dog? And it's like we finally get to see Jay stop and think about it for the first time, because like he was younger before, so he's like, oh yeah, aliens, I can do that. As he gets older, he starts to kind of, I guess for Jay, you could call it maturing. And then it's like, he kind of starts to ponder about that possibility of life or lack thereof now that he's with MIB.
Yeah, and Agent J threw in like a little funny comment where he's like, after meeting Frank all those years ago, like that was a point where I was like, yeah, I'm not sure if I ever want a dog now. And because it's like now he doesn't know like if he gets a dog, what if it's an alien and he just doesn't know, and just their relationship type of thing. I thought that was a neat little touch. But yeah, like they're having this conversation about family, and it might feel kind of cliche, but I guess it's sort of expected for like a sequel where it's like all these years later and they're looking back. And of course, like with Agent K, we've previously kind of touched on like his regrets, like with his wife and his, the whole thing with Agent O. Like we talked about how in Men in Black Declassified, he and Agent O kind of like you could tell they were into each other but couldn't do anything, and they did that mission in London where they thought like Mick Jagger was an alien or something and played darts, and we get a flicker of that flashback to that scene again, but it's kind of brief. But you can tell that he's kind of wondering if he squandered like 50 years of his life by being in MIB. But yeah, do you have like any other comments on that?
No, for Agent K, I will say it was nice to see him having, I guess you could call it the romantic interest in Agent O. It was nice seeing him have the same romantic interest going from one movie to the next finally.
Yeah, and yeah, and as they're like walking around, they hear like a Rolling Stones song somewhere, so that is kind of what takes him back, and it's like he's like sort of reflecting, and you can tell that Agent K is trying not to cry about all the time that has gone by, and it's like Tommy Lee Jones sells it. It's just like really great acting on his part. But yeah, they finally get their mission. Like this is kind of an interesting intro for a Men in Black movie because it doesn't begin with action like one might expect. They go to headquarters and they're told that they need to go to Germany where there's been signs of like some sort of aquatic looking alien, and it's like they're not so sure about like if they should send like agents K and J are like questioning whether they should be sent overseas, and they're like, "You're the best agents we've got for this. You have to." And they're like, "Oh, okay." But yeah, what'd you think of this mission briefing and this whole setup here with like Agent O telling them what they need to do?
I thought it was great. I mean, I thought Agent O was just going to be like a mention, so getting to see her again was amazing, and then getting to hear that we're going to see MIB in Germany, just another great thing to see. Hey, let's get outside of America since this is supposed to be like a worldwide organization. We got to see a little bit of London and stuff in previous ones, but now let's see another country and how they operate. I thought it was great.
Yeah, for sure. Because we're so used to some of the locations being around the New York area, but we've of course seen other locations in the movies, and it's like I don't know, it's always nice when they travel to another place. It just shakes things up. Um, so they go to Germany and they they have some clues, and of course they have like their weapons and gadgets and stuff. And they try looking around, and they go to a pizzeria, and they're kind of like joking at each other and being like, really, we go from one type of pie shop to another type of pie shop. It just feels kind of meta, like going to a pizza place, I guess. So they're about to sit down for some pizza, and before taking a bite, they notice that the pepperoni is moving ever so slightly. And that's when it's revealed that these slices of pepperoni are actually not like typical pepperoni. They're like part of an alien, and so they like they like sort of reassemble as one being, and it's kind of humanoid shape but pepperoni like texture, and it's just really weird design. And it's like, whoa, like what's going on here? Like, are these aliens that want to be eaten? But yeah, what'd you think of that little reveal?
Yeah, it was weird. Visually, I thought it looked amazing, but I definitely wasn't expecting it. I don't know if you want to talk about the voice of this little pepperoni dude or not.
Oh yeah, the voice. Well, the voice of this pepperoni alien was by Gwyneth Paltrow, but they like sort of modulated her voice a little bit. But I think it's like a little joke of like, oh yeah, Gwyneth Paltrow played Pepper in the Marvel movies, and it's like I didn't know it was her at first, but then looking at the credits, it's like, oh my gosh, that was her. That's like so weird.
Yeah, it was definitely with all the layover and work that they do to the voice, could not tell that it was her. In the actual movie, definitely had to wait for the credits. Like the
Yeah,
whole time, I was like, "Is this?" I was like, "That's Michael Fassbender, isn't it?" And I was like, "Oh no, that was Gwyneth Paltrow." Okay, that's some good voice editing.
yeah, but we do get Michael Fassbender as like one of the cooks at this place, and he like walks out of the kitchen and is like, "Whoa, what's going on?" And he's like acting all surprised, like he doesn't know what's going on. But what'd you think of his character and his involvement in this whole thing?
Didn't come across as smart as I thought the character would. Once I saw that it was Michael playing the role, he always kind of tends to play smarter characters. It seems like so having one that comes out should know that the Men in Black wear black suits and all that, and then like still like tries to pretend like nothing's going on and everything. But I grew to enjoy the character as the movie went on.
He kind of plays the bumbling chef for a bit, and it's like, yeah, this is very different from how we're used to seeing him. Do you have like a favorite Michael Fassbender role?
Uh, that's such a good question.
Because he's so good, right?
Yeah, he is, and I mean, obviously, his role in the X-Men movies stands to mind. And then didn't he? Oh, what was that? Was that the Assassin's Creed movie? I think it was.
Oh he was in that, and not many people liked that movie.
Yeah, I want to have said it was because of him though.
Right.
Um,
Yeah, it was like the script and the like technical stuff of the film. Yeah.
Right now, that's all that's coming to mind. I'm looking at his list and I'm realizing I haven't. Oh, I forgot that he was in Inglorious Bastards. Yeah, that was. Yeah, I guarantee you he had a good role in that. That was a great movie.
Yeah, before I knew who he was. I think he might have been in 300. I'm not 100% sure, but yeah, definitely Magneto. Like, I loved his portrayal of Magneto, and I also thought he was convincing as David and that other android in those Alien prequels. Like, he just felt very robotic, and I like how he changes accent for the other android. And yeah, just an all around really great actor of such high caliber, which makes it all the more surprising that they have him in this more comical role.
Right, but it was just nice getting to see him, play the field a little bit more.
The pepperoni alien explains that they are an alien race where they need to get eaten in order to be reborn. Agents J and K are like wincing at the implications of this, and it's kind of pretty much poop humor, and so thankfully they don't go too far in explaining, but they just keep questioning this alien and seeing if it knows anything about like the octopus alien that they're looking for. Yeah, well, what'd you think of like this scene where they're like questioning about the octopus alien?
It almost seemed like it came out of nowhere with like how quickly the conversation changed. So it definitely took some adjusting in that little scene transition. I don't know if something got lost in the editing room or if that was just always the plan, where it seemed like it's almost like Jay's sitting there having a normal conversation with them, and then out of nowhere, Kay just cuts in and is like, all right, let's get down to business. Which is a very classic J and K thing, I guess. I just wasn't expecting it.
One thing I will say is that with the Men in Black movies, some of the alien stuff can get kind of ridiculous and over the top, and that is kind of the charm of it. But the interactions between J and K are just delightfully delicious, and that they really know how to make their interactions work and their chemistry, and just it feels like this is a lived-in friendship slash partnership type of thing.
You can definitely see the evolution of these characters together from the first movie all the way up until now.
Yeah, and so this pepperoni alien tips them off and says that it's heard rumors of some sort of alien having a lair in a place that locals consider like a haunted house, and so they don't go inside, and it's like the perfect cover, I guess. And of course, they use a neuralizer on the people in the pizzeria. Like, what'd you think of the excuse that they said to like revise their memories?
As soon as I saw Jay start to open his mouth, I thought we were going to get something a little bit out there, because he was always given the extended backstory to every person. And so just to have him kind of take on a more serious matter because they're on a time crunch, and he's just like, what do you say? I think he said there was like a gas leak coming from the stove or something, and everyone had to. I don't remember exactly. That sounds like what he said. I think it was weird having such a serious issue come out of Jay's mouth in that moment because he likes to have fun with it.
Yeah, he was basically like, there's a gas leak from the stove. You all hallucinated for a little bit, and yeah, that's pretty much it. When they leave the pizzeria, Agent K's like, is that it? Like, you're usually much more elaborate on these sorts of things. And Agent J is like, what, are you complaining? Like, I thought you'd prefer me to not say so much. And like, you can kind of tell that maybe on some level, Agent K does kind of like when he makes more elaborate neuralizer excuses, which I thought was a really nice, heartwarming reveal, I guess. I don't know how you felt about it, but
I liked the whole exchange. Like you were saying, they get that heartfelt exchange there at the end of that little conversation, and you can just kind of see like at least, it shows up on Kay's face, and it had me thinking, I was like, oh, he's probably remembering of the first time he tried to do something wild and then got in trouble for it. And now he's like, oh no, what? But really, Jay's just growing up.
Jay's age, it's something that I don't really think about. Like when I go from Men in Black 2 to Men in Black 3, I don't really think of Jay as being much older. And I guess that's just because Will Smith like ages pretty well. But yeah, they never like make it a point that like in that movie he's never like, I'm getting too old for this type of thing. Like that's not the main focus for him. But here in Men in Black 4, there are moments where they're chasing people working for the alien, and Agent J kind of develops like a little bit of a back problem during a chase, and it's like maybe he is now thinking that he's getting too old for this stuff.
Yeah, they also had another callback to the first one. Jay was trying to chase down a cephalopod this time, and this time it gets away. And he kind of makes a little call on his own age there as well. He's like, man, this isn't as easy as it used to be.
Yeah, he's like, take me back to the late 90s, it's just, and he mentions like multiple things that came out in the late 90s that he missed. Do you remember like some of the things he mentioned?
I remember towards the end, I kind of lost everything else because this one just had me. He started talking about those air up sneakers that you would like, pump the tongue on.
Oh yeah, I vaguely remember those.
And so I get just like hearing him talk about that, and it's like, oh, there's the classic J comedy. Like that's still there. Okay.
Yeah, he's like, take me back to PlayStation 1. And of course, it's Sony and they make these Men in Black movies. So yeah, of course there'd be like a Sony product mentioned. And then Agent K is like, you think you're getting old? Get a hold of yourself. Like, look at me. Agent J is like, well, yeah, but I'm like years away from where you were when you first considered retiring. It's like time passes quickly, and like that is a good point. And if you think about it, there was like a 10-year gap between 2002 and 2012, when Men in Black 2 and 3 came out. And like for me, thinking back on these last 10 years, it feels quicker than that gap between 02 and 012. But like I don't know, does it feel like time passed slower than it did this past decade? Like, is it different depending on person? Like, what was it like for you, Jesse?
So the past 10 years have really flown by. The 10 years before that, they were flying, but not as fast. Yeah.
Okay, so it's not just me.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know we're getting like a little bit existential with these questions, but well, this is a Men in Black movie that kind of does that. And, it's such an easy route for them, the characters to look back and consider like what's up now and whether they should stop or whatever. But it does provide some food for thought, which I at least appreciate it a bit, because I want to get something out of these movies, or any movie, when I watch them. Sometimes I just want fun watching a movie, but other times I do appreciate when they actually pose a question and really make you think.
Sometimes those are the best movies. The ones that you go into just expecting a good time, and there'll be that one line in the movie that just makes you stop and go, "Huh, I got to think about that." And, sometimes that one line will make the movie for you. Sometimes it won't. But the ones that make you think about life and just everything in general are probably some of my favorite ones.
Yeah, and of course they do this boat chase. Like they get in a boat to chase a cephalopod, and they lose it, and they fall in the water and have to like swim back to the shore, or like the streets or whatever. And it's like, yeah, this is kind of getting overbearing for them, like doing all these like stunts. And Agent J also makes a joke about how like, I know water makes people wrinkly, but you look the same to me.
I forgot about that line. Yeah. Yeah. uh, but it was great because they're out of their environment, this Germany office or like little, I guess you call it like an MIB outpost. It's not fully stocked. They don't have a full staff. They don't have everything that they would need. So seeing two older agents, out there trying to do the thing without the backup that they're used to, you can definitely see that it's making them question their choices at this point.
Yeah, it's kind of like a little safe house type of thing. It's like a cramped room. The lighting is basically just a couple of lamps, so like some of the room is dimmed. And I actually got nostalgic watching this. It reminded me of the Sly Cooper video games, which I mean they're also Sony, PlayStation 2, and 3 for that one game. But just how like in between missions they'd be in a safe house. Yeah, I just kind of liked those vibes here, where they're like sitting in the safe house office and looking at everything on the desk, and it's just like I don't know, like this type of setting. Like this is gonna sound weird, but since I was a kid, I've always wanted a safe house like this, where it just feels kind of cozy. Like it has a fireplace and hot cocoa without having a fireplace and hot cocoa, if that makes sense. Like it has that type of vibe.
Yeah, I get you. Yeah, I'm kind of the same way. I don't know if I would want. Yeah, I mean, but yeah, I really liked the look of this one. It was also great having that moment where Jay walks in. He's like, "Okay, I know what's going on. Where's the thermostat or the keypad or whatever?" And Kay's like, "Oh, it's got to be around here somewhere." And then the one guy's like, "No, this is it."
Yeah, and the computer that they use in that office even looks like it's from the late 90s. So again, it's like just adding to that nostalgia, but also like to the fact that this is kind of a low budget, out of date place, and they're kind of like they hear the dial up sound again, which they'd heard in Men in Black 3 even when they went back in time.
Oh yeah, waiting on the neuralizer to power up.
Yeah. Man, that dial up sound, it's like there really isn't anything like it, and it's like I don't know how you explain that sound to someone younger without like them having to hear it. It's just such a unique sound.
I try all the time to explain it to my daughter without playing it for her. So, like, as far as I know, she still hasn't heard it, and if she has, she doesn't know that's what I'm talking about. So eventually, the reveal will come, and I can't wait just to try to understand the confusion on her face.
Yeah, I mean, those were the days. Like, I vaguely remember the late '90s, where like I was like really little, and it's like it felt like AOL was the big powerhouse, and there are also like CD-ROMs, that like those were a thing. There's like a kindergarten one I really loved playing, and yeah, like this is such a weird movie in that it invokes those feelings in some audiences, like remembering what things were like in a way.
Right? Like they, this was one of those set pieces that they took the time to get everything laid out perfectly. They made sure, that for the time frame that they were wanting to capture, they had all the pieces of the puzzle in place and nothing extra.
Feels different from like other movies and shows where it's like nostalgia overload and product placement every scene, but here it's like it's still the present, like 2015 when this came out, but they have little instances here and there where they do like little callbacks to like where the world was when the film series, like when this Will Smith and Tommy Lee Jones's first movie came out. They are trying to figure out where the haunted house is, because the thing is they had the address for it, but it turns out that the haunted house moves, and that's also part of the mystique, the urban legend of it. Like people are afraid of it because it moves, like it teleports and stuff, and they think it's because of supernatural reasons, but really it's because like it's an alien controlling it, and it's kind of like their ship type of thing. Like, what'd you think of that choice?
So it was around this point that once they kind of started talking about the house teleporting, I stopped getting alien vibes and like the people in the movie. I was thinking supernatural, and I was like, oh, are we about to, get a resurgence of Ghostbusters? I thought we were about to get a crossover and like get a revive of the Ghostbusters.
Right, and it's even like the same company, like Sony. So, of course, they're working on the 2016 film at this time, and trying to get that to start. So,
Yeah,
but
it just seemed right, at that point, they were probably filming at the same time, at least a scene or something or pre-production. They could have gotten a few people together. I was like, oh, that maybe even just drive by and be like, oh yeah, we can't, we're busy doing something else, and then, oh well, watch the movie next year.
yeah, but there is like a little bit of a teaser or shout out, if you want to call it that. Like when they actually get to the haunted house or whatever you want to call it, like when they get inside, they do see what appear to be ghosts, and they have like the aesthetic of how the ghosts would look in the 2016 film. I think I remember saying on this podcast that the 2016 Ghostbusters, like for all its flaws, I really love the visual aesthetic of some of it and how the coloring of the ghosts really pop. And Agent J and K are like, oh, these are probably holograms, right? And then the ghosts are like, they turn out to not be holograms. It's like, wait, are these ghosts or are these something else? And then you get like some other supernatural looking creatures like werewolves and vampire looking things. And it's like, whoa, are they like harkening back to like the roots of the Men in Black comics and that mid 90s film that people forgot about, where it's like they deal with more supernatural stuff and like cryptids than alien stuff. It's like it really made me question like what this movie was going for, but I kind of liked it. But I don't know, how did you react to like all of this?
It kind of took me out of it. I was never big on the cryptic storylines of the comic run and everything. I always enjoyed just like the alien play. It's what felt right. So to see them, what I thought, to see them trying to wrangle in all these outside sources, at that point, I was ready to go get a popcorn refill and a soda, and let that scene play out.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah, like I think I was digging this vibe a bit more, but then once you get like, there's like a giant snail that looks kind of ghostly but also alien, and it shows up. And you also get like the octopus, that alien showing up, and it's like these two don't really fit alongside these supernatural looking things. It's kind of jarring to see them all in the same room, I guess.
I will say, getting back from the popcorn and soda, I was very confused by that scene as I walked in and just I was like, wait, hold on, where'd the snail come from? Never leave during the movie, guys. You will be confused no matter what you think.
Yeah, what was it like? One of those $15 popcorns, or like?
Yeah, the large bucket with the refill and everything. I was like, well, I'll just go get this real quick. And then there's a line because another movie was starting, so I missed a little bit more than I meant to, and just not worth it.
Yeah, it's like a metal bucket with like the MIB4 logo on it.
Yeah, the collector's edition. They had another one too, but I was like, man, I don't need like the extra large cup. So no, let's just do the popcorn.
Yeah, like those metal buckets look cool, but I've never been a collector of them. But I do. This is a tangent, but like I remember when me and a friend went to see. It was either X-Men Apocalypse or Captain America Civil War. It was back in 2016, and at the theater we went to, it might have been Regal. I think there were like these statues of the live action Ninja Turtles, because I think their second movie was coming out, and like as flawed as those movies were, like the statues looked pretty cool, and so I think my friend like took a picture with them. But yeah, just movie theaters going all out in the lobby, I guess.
That's something I don't see too much anymore. Is like I'll see like maybe a cutout poster board something, but it seems like whenever I was a kid, you would see a lot more of the theaters getting into it, I guess, and like decorating out and really going at it with advertisements and stuff.
Yeah, it kind of reminds me of the meme where it's like McDonald's then and McDonald's now, and like how it used to look colorful and have more, um, like the seeds looked more stylized, and it was like you're basically in McDonald land or something. But now it's like it's just kind of gray and brown and just not as fun looking, you know?
Right? Yeah, like I think that same meme applies for like the old Nickelodeon studios. Have you seen that one?
Maybe.
It was like it used to be like it had like the orange paint on it from like the splat it used to and everything, and now it looks like just like an old office building, like
Yeah.
so pale and.
Yeah, that sounds very depressing. Yeah, I mean there are lots of problems with Nickelodeon that have actually come to light, but we don't have time to get
Yeah,
into
yeah,
all of
yeah.
that. But yeah, so if they're finally confronting like the octopus guy, um, and like this is like, what'd you think of the choice of voice actor that they got for this octopus alien?
I don't know what I was expecting. I was not expecting the voice that came out though. Like I wasn't expecting something so high pitched.
Yeah, and this high pitched voice was surprisingly from Adam Sandberg. I almost said Sandberg by accident because I think I almost said Adam Sandler, but yeah, it was Andy Samberg from Brooklyn Nine-Nine, trying to do his high pitched voice, like doing a stab at that, and it's just. I think depending on the type of viewer you are, you'll either find this annoying or funny, or maybe it's like it's good in small doses type of thing. But
I will say I'm glad he dropped it like fairly quickly, where he's like, "Oh, okay, yeah, still can't do the voice." So, anyways, but
yeah,
it's just like, oh, great! It's great to see like even in like in these serious moments, even seeing like the aliens having a little sense of humor to themselves and having their own character instead of just being a set piece waiting for their turn to, action.
yeah. I will say though that the CGI for him didn't look very good. Like it didn't look and I don't know if they were trying to do another throwback to like late 90s stuff with like late 90s CGI, but it looked like something out of a lesser animated thing, like the Monsters versus Aliens TV show or something. Like it looked kind of goopy, but it didn't feel to me like he was in the environment, if that makes sense.
Well, so something that I've realized in recent viewings of movies that also have tentacles with poor CGI, it seems to be just anything with lots of tentacles are very hard to CGI. I don't think I've ever seen a good one.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, even in the newer Doctor Strange movie,
Yeah,
I feel like they had problems with that too.
yeah, that's what I was referencing with my recent tentacled monster movie.
Oh, okay.
Because it's like even something so new age with lots of tentacles, like there's other parts of the movie that don't look right either, but like it's noticeable in that, like most CGI now blends in pretty well. But even whenever you got lots of tentacles, I can see it being really hard to animate that right.
Yeah, and you could probably get away with that in a SpongeBob movie, but here it's like with the Men in Black movies, I feel like I kind of expect a bit more because this is a long running film franchise, and they really improved by the time of Men in Black 3, and it's like I thought they'd continue like improving, but this was a moment where it was like maybe they should have had more budget, or maybe I don't know, maybe tentacles just are inherently difficult to animate, especially like several years ago when this came out.
I think that just means someone's gonna get it right eventually, and that movie's gonna get 5 stars probably just because of that.
Yeah, or like maybe someday like we'll discover like actual aliens have tentacles and they'll act in the movie and it'll be very practical, but some people who are not in the know and watch the movie will be like, those tentacles look so fake type of thing, even though it's real.
Yeah, that would definitely happen.
And yeah, so this octopus alien is from Mars apparently, and he talks about how like he's trying to get revenge because like the water disappeared, but he doesn't like have anyone to take it out on, so he wants to like terrorize the humans. It's like this is such a weird motive. But like, what do you think of like all of the stuff that he explains here?
It was I was so confused because I was still trying to figure out who the snail was. It was just one of those moments where I was like, all right, so they're talking. Let me try to piece together the movie up to this point and get my bearings on it. It was a scene that I watched.
Yeah, it was the most movie ever of all
Yeah.
time. What was their reaction when the snails started talking?
I was like, oh, this one can talk too. I don't know why I'm still getting surprised that aliens can talk whenever they look like snails. I mean, they introduced us to Frank 30 years ago, and it shouldn't be surprised. But yeah, so this one was great because there was no hiding it. It was rest in peace. It was a Norm McDonald as the snail, which I think was a great choice.
And he voiced the like slime alien in the Orville, right?
Oh, he did. I completely forgot about that. So it's like this is like a great precursor to that role.
Yeah, I did so well in this role, and I guess they're like, hey, let's get him as this character for the Orville.
But it was like I wasn't expecting Norm to be in Men in Black.
Yeah, his voice acting was great here. Like as iffy as the CGI was, like his voice acting sold it. Like I think he and Sandberg made a nice little comedic duo here, and they're like arguing and stuff, and they were actually like having the same argument of like whether or not they're getting too old for this sort of thing, like haunting humans and like scaring them and stuff. And then Agent J and K sort of look at each other with their eyebrows raised and are like, is this seriously happening? It's kind of weird that they have a similar existential crisis like we're kind of having type of thing.
It was great though because it was a really neat way to bookend the stories of everybody because most of these movies end in a shootout and a blaze, and instead it's hey, let's all talk this out. And it was really just a bunch of old guys sitting at a table talking, but it was entertaining.
Yeah, and I remember when sort of getting ahead of myself. I remember when I watched this back in the day and like walked out of the theater, I overheard some people saying that they found it anticlimactic that they just talked it out instead of like doing a huge action scene. Maybe I had mixed feelings at the time, but looking back, I kind of like how subversive this was. Like they just all sat around and talked, had some apple juice or something that you don't expect people to bond over in a movie, but there you go. And it's just like, I don't know, there's just something really down to earth about this scene, pun intended, I guess.
Yeah, going back on what we were talking about earlier about movies that have like that perfect scene and all that really make you realize something. This scene did that for this movie, and in turn kind of caused the whole movie in general to do that. Because at the start of the series, Jay's younger. He's a little bit more gung ho. He's out there, and whenever you're younger, you're probably going to jump to violence instead of talking it out. And then by this point, they're all older. None of them want to be violent. They're like, well, so we'll talk it out. It was a great life lesson there that talking can get more done and cause less damage.
Yeah, and they also have some pie, and Agent K once again mentions how like he'd have pie with his grandpa, and he mentions that his grandpa like fought in World War II and was like a colonel or something, and it was like in my head I'm thinking, oh, is this like a Captain America reference, like with Tommy Lee Jones's character in that?
I was thinking the same thing.
Yeah, like and the pie looks so good, like it's. I mean, people could probably do podcasts about like desserts in movies and how good they look sometimes. Like,
I'm sure there's one out there. There's got to at least be one.
Yeah, there's got to be one. Like at the beginning of Men in Black 3, the cake looked so good, and It's yeah, like there are lots of good looking ones in lots of movies. Yeah, I guess even though the CGI was iffy, I guess what matters most is that the food looks good.
I mean, I hate whenever I have to look at unappealing food. Luckily, I never have to do that.
Yeah, I mean, what even is the food that Luke has on Dagobah? You know, it's like you look at it, it's like, what the hell even is this?
Or Ray and her Insta muffin.
Oh, that one actually looks appealing to me, but I think it's because the texture of it reminds me of matzo ball soup, even though it probably doesn't feel or taste like that. But yeah, I don't know. It's just like a weird thing, I guess. What do you think of how they sort of wrap this movie up and what agents J and K end up deciding in terms of like what they want to do in life?
I thought it was great. Not necessarily the reactions I was expecting them to take. J and K talk, and Jay decides, not to neuralize K, but if anyone asks, he was. Because he does not want to lose that friendship that he has with Jay. And so that was really heartfelt. And then he's like, well, where are you going to go? And Kay's like, I'm going to go to London. There's someone I have to see. Yeah, so I thought that was beautiful.
Kind of reminiscent, like thematically, kind of reminiscent of like Cap and Peggy Carter getting together and just but it was a lot of they don't like spoon feed it to you, like it's like what's going on, and it's like the decision to not neuralize him is just so like I really enjoy that. Like it would have been such a retread if they did it like they did at the end of the first movie, but yeah, I don't know, like I guess it depends on the story, because there are some stories where I feel like the character getting like losing their memories would make it more impactful to the story. But we've spent so much time with these guys being good friends and partners that like it just feels more right for K to not be neuralized. And yeah, I don't know, it just felt like a nice way to cap it off. And they're gonna try to keep in touch one way or another, even if it's like covert. It's like they're totally gonna hang out once in a while.
Yeah, it almost gave me Shawshank Redemption vibes there at the end. Hey, whenever you get out, come meet me here.
Yeah, Shawshank was such a good movie. Yeah. Jay is like, I don't know if being a family man is necessarily the right thing for me, maybe in some other life, but I'm good at what I do. And, it shows him looking around at the MIB headquarters. And even though we haven't seen him have like close friendships with like any of these other people in this headquarters, they try to make it heartwarming and have him say, "This place is my family." And it's just, yeah, I just wasn't sold on it.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure if you look closely, there's a lot of doppelgangers to the cast of Fast and Furious there in the Men in Black suits.
Yeah. Just have Will Smith and Tommy Lee Jones, like driving, and to hear that "When I See You Again" song. I do admire. Not everyone needs to have a family. Like I know he made like Patrick Warburton have a family, and it was really weird. But I feel like they were trying to make a nice lesson that like there are some people who stay single, or maybe they'll have a relationship but not have a family or whatever, and like not everyone needs that exact nuclear family type of life, and that could have been powerful, but I felt like it was kind of undermined by the fact that like he doesn't have that close friendship with like most of the people in this headquarters, so it kind of fell flat for me.
Right, like he's like, yeah, these are my people, but he's about to go back to a life of neuralizing his partner every 2 weeks, probably.
Yeah, and
unless he's really matured and like he goes out and basically rehashes the first movie with a new, younger NYPD person, which would be another great series of movies for them to try and tackle.
Yeah, maybe. But yeah, they sort of like keep it open ended, and it's like, okay, I'm gonna treat you new recruits. And you see like some people who are like really eager, and it's like it ends with him like putting on, well, like he basically says, "Welcome to the Men in Black." Or actually, the line he says is even cheesier than that. He says, "Welcome to the agency, and if you're good enough, the Men in Black will be for you." And it's like he's trying to force the four into there, and just says the logo Men in Black 4 and then end credits.
Yeah, I not the line I was expecting him to go out on. Like in a group full of people, I was expecting, let's go put it on.
Yeah, and it was clunky because they don't even try to make a sentence where the word "for" is after Men in Black. They have to put like a couple words in between and just emphasize it, and it's just like really cheesy and clunky.
Yeah, I mean, it still had that J vibe to it. Though. It's like it was still something I expected from Men in Black without expecting it at the same time.
Yeah. And of course, during the end credits, they have a song that's sung by Will Smith, and it's like named after the movie. And I thought it was pretty good. It's like a nice rap song. It really fits the vibe, I think.
Yeah, it was one of those things because I had forgotten that he did music for the first and second one. So it was really nice, you know, bringing it back for the fourth one. I don't remember if he did for the third one or not, but I don't think he did.
Remember for the third one, the end credit song was I don't know if it was like a cover of a 60s song or something that sort of evoked that vibe. Like because you know, they time traveled to the 60s, so it felt like they're trying to evoke that, you know, something that's 60s sounding but with a modern spin. So it made sense for that, but I thought this was a nice way to come full circle.
The whole movie was like a way to close out the series without closing out the series at the same time. It really, they went through and like closed all the loose ends that they could, and they still left the story open for more. It was great.
Even though it closed out like the Agent J and K partnership type story, like they still, like, you knew they wanted to make more spin-offs, and they did. So it's like, yeah, I thought this was a nice film.
Yeah, and they learned their lesson. They didn't neuralize K.
Right.
They're like, we might need him.
Right, yeah, bring him out of retirement when he's like 90. I guess we could go into final thoughts. So what are your final thoughts and score out of 10 and unit of measurement for Men in Black 4?
Oh goodness. I thought. I mean, like I've been saying, I thought it was great. There were definitely a couple of silly moments there with animation and certain lines that were said at certain parts. But overall, I thought it was a really great movie. Highly recommend it. Probably gonna give it 8 out of 10 pepperonis.
Nice. Yeah, I think so. Like I said, out of the Agent J and K movies, like with them as partners, Men in Black 3 is my favorite. Like, I think I'd put 3 at 8 out of 10, but I think 4 is maybe close behind it, but maybe above the first two, which is weird because I know there's like some silliness in this fourth one, but there's just some nice existential things that like make me think, and it's like it doesn't feel as typical in some ways. So I think I would give Men in Black 4 7.8 PlayStations out of 10.
I wish I had 7.8 PlayStations.
Like, would the 0.8 just be like a chunk of it is missing, or
There'll be pieces shaved off that are just plastic to equate for 0.2 of a PlayStation, so it's still fully functioning. It just won't look right.
okay, like some of the exterior is missing.
Yeah, it's been dropped a time or two probably.
All right, well, thanks for joining me again, Jesse. Why don't you tell people about Question Possible Answer, your podcast?
Oh, all right, awesome. Thanks again for having me on. It was really fun, a really great time. Looking forward to doing it again, hopefully in the future. So, Question Possible Answer. We're a podcast where we talk about movies and TV shows, and we kind of break down scenes and just kind of explore, does the science work for it? Or sometimes we'll ask, what would you do in this scenario? We just kind of get off on tangents about the movie. You can find us on Facebook and Instagram, question, possible answer in your search bar. It'll pop up. And then you can listen to us on Anchor, iTunes, Spotify, wherever you get your podcast, question/possible answer.
Nice. And of course, I'll include the links to that in the show notes as usual. And people can follow me at Steven Shinder on Instagram and Twitter, Steven Shinder Storytelling on Facebook. Go StevenShinder.com for info on my books. So Lemons Will Make Rain has been out for a while. Trespassing Through Visages coming out sometime soon. You can also find me on Yesshift, which is a vlog and podcast I do with my dad. We go live on Facebook.com/Yesshift, and then I put the video on YouTube, and we also put the audio on various podcasting platforms. So yeah, celebrating like 50th anniversary of the monumental Yes album, Close to the Edge, in some ways. So and just a bunch of other neat topics that we've talked about and people we've interviewed. So yeah, just keep an eye out for all of that. You can email Delayed Replay via delayedreplaypodcast@gmail.com. Let us know your thoughts on the late 90s, I guess. Also, here's like a little announcement I was saving for like the end. This is the 100th episode of Delayed Replay. If you count the Star Wars Celebration episode as 2 episodes, since I had to divide into 2 podcast platforms, but on YouTube I have it as one thing, so I prefer to think of it as one thing.
Congratulations.
Yeah, thanks. And in celebration of that, like the timing was pretty good. For the rest of this year, I'm gonna be trying to put out episodes weekly again instead of every other week. So, through October, maybe some nice Halloween stuff. We're gonna start with Spooky Jack, which is a DreamWorks movie that came out in our universe, but not in that other universe. So yeah, through October, November, and December, gonna try to be weekly. I'm probably not gonna change the intro since it already has that little asterisk of it's bi-weekly unless noted otherwise. So I'll like keep reminding people at the beginning that's weekly for now. And then like after December, there will be a little break like there have been between previous seasons, and then might be every other week again after that point, but I guess we'll see. But yeah, it's really excited to talk about some of the topics that I have on the list for the rest of this year. But yeah, I guess that'll do it. And thanks for listening. And without further delay, have a good day.